So this is a 30-minute video about gay men. The Sonic franchise is something that, once upon a time, was constantly berated by online publications for, gosh, having characters! Often, reviews would cite that Sonic just has way too many friends. Of course, nowadays, public opinion has shifted, and we're starting to see these characters star in way more important roles now. Being playable again in recent games, with some even getting their own games where they are the sole focus. And while several opinions you may find will swing many different directions on whom the best Sonic character is, the question here I want to ask isn't who is the best, but rather who is the most real. Sonic characters, like most in fiction, usually inherit more exaggerated archetypes, but while on a surface level they seem really simple, making them really easy to introduce to someone, what makes these characters so compelling to so many people is who they really are when you start to peel back the layers. Take Tails, for example. At first glance, you would look at him and say, that's Sonic's sidekick, or that's Sonic's buddy, but as you keep playing these games and paying attention to the character, you learn more and more about how that kind of role affects him. He's unsure of himself, and he feels like he needs Sonic to actually accomplish anything, that no matter what he does, he'll never be anything compared to his hero. And how about Knuckles? He's your average brute, someone who takes no nonsense and punches before he thinks. Except he does think. A lot. That's all he can do, because he's the sole guardian of the Master Emerald, a power that wiped out the rest of his species because their greed for it angered the entity inside. And now Knuckles, being the last of his kind, has to fight isolation and grieve people he's never even gotten to know. Sonic characters feel, and in turn, they make you feel too. As these characters feel, they also learn and grow, and you can watch their journeys. You can watch Tails learn to believe in himself again and gain the confidence to do things his own way without Sonic's help. And you can watch Knuckles open up to other people and begin to let go of the burden he's been carrying for something he wasn't even there for. And they're all like this. Take any Sonic character, and there's usually a story to them that makes them so interesting, that makes them stand out from the usual archetypes you see in other forms of media. But amidst all of the Sonic cast, these characters, their emotions, their stories, and their lessons, there is one character that resonates to me the most out of any one of them, and that character is Agent Stone. But who exactly is he? Agent Stone, whose full name is Aban Mercury Stone, no, don't look it up, just take my word for it, is a character that only appears in the first trilogy of Sonic movies because he's a character created specifically for them. And he follows the basic core principles that we see with every other Sonic character. When we first meet him, he's simple, just a personal assistant to Dr. Robotnik, just another henchman, much like the ones Eggman has had in the past. But deeper, under the surface, lies a man longing for validation, to mean something more to someone he looks up to, and also something much, much darker. But before we can talk about that, let me get something off of my chest first. You know, what really pains me the most about this character is his complete and utter neglection in this franchise. And like, one could argue that he's in all the Sonic movies and gets a decent amount of screen time. And like, yeah, sure, but not nearly enough. Not to mention, he's nowhere close to the human with the most amount of screen time in this movie universe. You wanna know who is? It's not Tom, it's not Maddie, it's not even Dr. Robotnik. It's fucking Wade Whipple! I'm sorry. Look, the point I'm trying to get across is that Agent Stone is severely underappreciated, and he's so much more than just one half of a toxic, codependent, doomed yaoi. And since I'm the first person I've ever seen on this platform actually make a whole video dedicated to him, I feel like it's my obligation to change the tide of the conversation a little bit. So what makes Agent Stone such a compelling character? Well, like I said earlier, when we first meet the agent, we get the idea really quickly. And on first watch, it's easy to immediately write this character off as nothing more than a one-dimensional background character. Someone who acts purely on Robotnik's will without any mind of their own. Think your basic lackey in any other form of media. But right off the bat, there's one huge difference that sets Agent Stone apart from any other basic assistant. He's intelligent. Like, he's really, really intelligent. In his first ever line of dialogue in the franchise, he's directly translating Dr. Robotnik's needlessly verbose sentences. And he's proven with the way that he uses Robotnik's technology that not only does he understand it, he's fluent. And I can't imagine Robotnik wanting to take the time to teach someone else how to use his machines, so I can only guess that Stone took the initiative himself to study his boss's complex ecosystem. That might even be how he got the job. And this tells me that not only is Agent Stone intelligent, but he's even smarter than Dr. Robotnik. Yes, I'm serious. Keep watching, please. But how can I know this? Well, let's look at what we know about Robotnik first. The most popular way that we humans use to measure another person's knowledge and ability to efficiently think is something called an intelligence quotient, or more widely known as simply an IQ. And looking into the laid out facts about Robotnik given to us by Sonic Team, we are directly told he has an IQ of 300. And with how much that piece of trivia is often thrown around when discussing Eggman, I just want to remind you that is insane. Most people today typically sit between an IQ range of 80 to 100, at least in my research. And even some of the most smartest people, most well-known in history, aren't even considered to have reached an IQ of 200, disputably. And given the feats he displays in these movies, such as building an entire Death Egg robot complete with a whole host of features just on the fly, yeah, I'd say it's pretty believable that he is at least a little smart. And while he was under the powerful influence of the Master Emerald, it only gave him the power to pick up the surrounding metals. I don't think it directly gave him a blueprint for a mechanized robot in his image, complete with a whole host of features. But do I really think Stone could match that intellect even in the slightest? Yes, actually. While he did have a hard time piloting Eggman's newly built creation just moments later, he still got around to picking it up really quickly, using a move even Eggman was caught off guard by, almost like he didn't know he implemented it? Which you could argue it's because he read the manual that Robotnik made, but you also have to keep in mind that it's probably chock full of so many little intricate things. Like, have you ever tried looking in the owner's manual of your car? Not to mention, Robotnik isn't exactly one to be easily comprehended. He talks so fast, and is clearly a sesquipedalian. Did I pronounce that right? Whatever. So I can't imagine this manual being comprehensive at all, especially if he made it off the top of his head during all of this. So Stone being able to take that information and learn it to such a degree is an incredible demonstration of his intellect. Because to me, being smart isn't just pertaining to what you already know, it's what you can learn. But if that's not proof enough for you, then why don't we ask the official people behind the Sonic movies, as they have been ever so kind enough to provide us with an in-character, complete Agent Stone resume / portfolio all in LinkedIn. Now, unfortunately, the page has since been taken down, and nobody has archived it on the Wayback Machine as far as I can tell. But some people have been kind enough to record their own footage of the page and post it on the internet, so thank you to this account for preserving this information. Now, let's take a deeper look into this page. As we begin to scroll, you can see several funny Easter eggs and references to the Sonic movies, stuff you would just about expect. He's fluent in several languages, including binary. He's also taken many classes, so it's clear he knows a thing or two. But what I want you to see is neatly tucked underneath the bottom of this page, just right here, sitting in plain sight, an IQ of 301. That is 1 point more than the IQ we have on file for Dr. Robotnik. This means that not only is Stone as smart as Robotnik, he's technically smarter. But then that obviously creates a confusing situation, doesn't it? Because if Agent Stone is smarter than Robotnik and also has an interest in robotics, as well as Spanish soap operas, and basically everything else Robotnik is interested in, well, then why doesn't he take over? Why isn't he in charge of himself instead of acting as Robotnik's personal footstool? Well, there are a number of reasons that are all shown in these movies. Number one, he probably likes being stepped on by Robotnik. Number one, he clearly doesn't have too much of an interest in ruling the world himself. While he does express some excitement over the possibility, I think the only reason he even does so is for a far more prevalent reason. As well as reason number two, he just likes whatever Robotnik likes, because he obviously looks up to him a lot. He can't help but look into his eyes and imagine their whole future together, watching shows, enjoying each other's companies, and doing things. But notice the way he looks at Robotnik in these movies. On rewatch of the first movie, it's clear the writers aren't trying to create anything personal between them. However, intentional or not, they absolutely lay some rock solid groundwork for them to be a potential couple. And it isn't just from the way Stone acts around Robotnik, it's how Robotnik acts around Stone too. This isn't a one-sided situationship, it's just a normal one. Of course, there's no ignoring the fact that this isn't healthy at all. I could sit here and try to twist the story to convince you that Robotnik and Agent Stone are truly a power couple all the live long day, but the fact is that Robotnik is a hubristic, egocentric narcissist. His whole character is built off of the fact that he only cares about himself and his machines. He even tells Agent Stone in the first movie that he won't miss him when he's gone, and that the only thing he cares about are his mechanized spawn. But see, that has always struck me as a little peculiar, because if Dr. Robotnik only cares about his drones, about himself, and has no regards for humanity like he says, why is Agent Stone here? Why does Robotnik keep him around? Why is he on payroll? Does he get paid? When Robotnik is introduced in the first movie, you can see him pulling up with several agents behind him, just kind of standing there. He's a government employee. He doesn't try to catch Sonic because he wants to, it's just his job. But after he fails, it affects him so much, he goes mad, he starts losing his funding and connections with the government. But Agent Stone still sticks around, so is Stone not an agent of the government? Does he just do his own thing? Nobody is forcing Robotnik to have an assistant. If anything, wouldn't he have one that is a robot? One that doesn't have free will? One that just does what is told with complete efficiency? Even if Agent Stone wanted to stay by choice, why would Robotnik let him? The answer is simply because Agent Stone makes him feel good and special. There are several ways you could spin this. Agent Stone is always complimenting Robotnik, which most certainly feeds into his ego. Maybe Robotnik has him around to just feel smart, since he believes Agent Stone is just as stupid as the rest of humanity. But keep in mind, earlier in the video, I proved that he is actually smarter than Robotnik, so that wouldn't make sense, would it? Maybe. But I could propose a theory or two. Maybe Agent Stone is just pretending to be stupid as to not challenge Robotnik or hurt his self-esteem. I don't know. Look, the point I'm trying to get across is that in some dark, twisted, horrible way, Robotnik likes having Agent Stone around, even if he won't admit it. Now, of course, that is not a good basis for a relationship, not even a purely platonic one, or just for a business one, or any kind. But darn it, it's something. I need something to hold on to. How does Lee feel about this? Does he support these characters being together?
This is Agent Stone from Sonic the Hedgehog, also Lee Majdu. I just want to let you know, I support all Robotnik art, fanfic, it's great. As long as we're not harming anybody, it's all good. And I don't know, you know, old man Yowie's cool sometimes too, I guess. Toxic Yowie's the shit.
As you can see, this here is an example of a classic based AF moment from Lee Majdu.
I mean, it's not even like Robotnik uses every opportunity to treat Agent Stone like garbage. Yeah, he punches him, grabs him by the jaw, abandons him multiple times, and throws him into the wayside, but there are moments where he does show a little restraint. There's a moment in the first movie where Agent Stone glances in amazement at Robotnik as he explains every little intricate thing he's doing. Then, when he finishes talking, Agent Stone lovingly tells Robotnik that it's amazing, that he's brilliant. And Robotnik turns to him and says, "Thank you." And you can see the smile on Agent Stone's face involuntarily get bigger. His face lights up like he just can't stop it, like he can't hold back, just from a simple interaction and acknowledgement from Robotnik. He doesn't yell at Stone, he doesn't belittle him, he just accepts the compliment. Or at least that's what Stone thinks, because in reality, he whispers under his breath and finishes his sentence with a quiet, "For nothing." But see, what counts is that Agent Stone didn't hear that part, right, guys? So clearly he must have some remorse, right? I'm losing my mind. But see, he's so wishy-washy with this poor guy, because for every 2 moments where he treats Stone like crap, there's another where he gives him a genuine compliment. Like the iconic latte scene in the first movie. He doesn't berate Stone for interrupting him or startling him. He accepts the latte, and he even says, "I love the way you make them." He could get a robot to make him a latte. He could even learn to make it himself, but he accepts it from Stone, and he even tells him he loves it. God, you're feeding into my delusion! I know that you're not supposed to look into their relationship this hard, but I just can't help it. As if just to torture me specifically, they had to throw in heavy implications of more than just a work-level relationship between these two. And not even a platonic one either. Agent Stone has feelings for Robotnik. That is what they are communicating, even if he doesn't outright say it. If you have just any slight idea of media literacy, you cannot deny the possibility that this is what they are trying to communicate. And you could say, oh, but in the third movie, he just wants them to be friends. Yeah, because there has never been a piece of fiction that only says it's a platonic relationship despite way deeper implications just to cover their ass. The writers did not need to give Agent Stone these character traits. They did not need to hone in on any kind of longing for Robotnik's approval. They could have just had him as a one-note character. Nobody would say anything. Nobody would bat an eye. But they didn't! Why? Why is this here? Why does he have this character arc? Does it pertain to any messages of the films? Are they trying to say that it's okay to stay with someone who's toxic as long as they sacrifice themselves in the end for the planet? Is it just to give Stone some form of depth? Depth. You know, when I started writing the script for this video, it's because I wanted to propose an idea that Agent Stone deserves to be way more than just a side character in these movies. That I think he had a shot of being an excellent character in the comics or even the games. But the more time that I've spent sitting down and thinking about how it could possibly work, the more I realized that it's just not possible. Because if you put Agent Stone in the games, if you put Agent Stone in anything outside of the context of these movies, you lose why he's so important. Sure, you could have a character named Agent Stone in the games, but there would be nothing to set him apart. Not without having to reconstruct his character from the ground up to work in a completely different scenario. Dr. Eggman is in no short of henchmen, of lackeys, of supporting characters, and Sonic Team have certainly tried over and over to give him one that works, but they failed over and over and over again until Sonic Frontiers, where in it, finally, he builds Sage. He grows an attachment for her and adopts her not as his machine, but as his daughter, his own daughter, who lives and breathes just in her own way, not like how he treats his other robots. Game Robotnik and movie Robotnik are so different, but they also share so many similarities that it's hard to tell if they're more alike or more apart. But both of them, at their core, are just lonely. For Game Robotnik, that loneliness comes from being cast aside in the minds of his family while they grieved Maria. For movie Robotnik, he's never even had any minds to think about him in the first place. In the games, we see what Eggman's father looks like, but in the movies, he says he's an orphan and he's never had anyone. However, Game Robotnik makes Sage eventually. He grows attached to her and sees her as a family. He uses Sage as an outlet, a form of healing, to give her the world he couldn't have when he was a kid. But movie Robotnik had no one but Stone. And look at how he treats him. Robotnik and Stone, at the surface, are a cute duo, capable of whatever gags the writers throw at them. But underneath the surface is a tragedy. Robotnik is alone. He never had family, no one to care for him, and yet when he finally comes across someone who does care for him, finally, he completely throws it away. And Agent Stone has a severe anxious attachment towards Robotnik, and he's someone who, despite all of his potential, negates it all for someone who doesn't care for him back. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend about this video, and we started nerding out about Agent Stone. I told her that at the end of the first movie and the beginning of the second, when Robotnik is out of the picture, Agent Stone starts to follow his passions. He opens a coffee shop and starts making coffee for people, which, while actually was a low-key evil laboratory, could have been anything. It could have been a long ways away from the public, but Stone made it a coffee shop because that's what he's passionate about. But as soon as Robotnik comes back, he drops everything and goes right back to doing everything for him. My girlfriend heard all of this, and then that's when she said something that completely struck me.
You know, I feel like he's still doing it for Robotnik. In the second movie, he says, "I never stopped steaming your Austrian's goat milk," which would imply that every day he made the same latte, waiting for him to come back. It absolutely could have started off as a hobby of his, but when Robotnik said he liked him, it changed from a hobby to a way for Robotnik to recognize him.
Oh my god. Yeah, literally everything in this man's life revolves around Robotnik. That's why he gets so jealous when Robotnik drags someone else along with him. You can see it with Knuckles in the second movie, and it's a plot point with Gerald in the third. And he gets so jealous because he just wants to believe that Robotnik cares for him. But time and time again, he proves that that is simply just not the case. And yet Stone stays anyway because he just can't get over Robotnik. It almost has the same strokes as Simon and Betty's relationship as we see it in Fiona and Cake. Spoilers for Fiona and Cake, you should watch it, it's a really good show. Simon Petrikov being a well-renowned professor at a university, causing Betty to dismiss her own desires and goals to pursue Simon's, completely throwing away her own self-worth because she believes that Simon is a much more important person than she is. Did the writers of the silly Sonic flossing movies intend to write a story about neglecting a piece of oneself to pursue another person? Maybe, probably not, but I can't help but feel like Agent Stone represents something that is really important and ties back to one of the many themes of Sonic the Hedgehog in general, knowing your worth and letting go. When Gerald is first introduced in Sonic 3, Ivo drops everything to spend time with his grandfather. He drops his guard and follows him under the false pretense that because they're family, they're inseparable. But Stone doesn't have on the rose-tinted glasses, at least for Gerald, and catches on to the fact that him and Shadow are planning something behind Ivo's back. But when Stone tries to warn his boss, his idol, about the potential of a cataclysmic event, Robotnik shuts him out, just like he always does, citing that he's just jealous of his grandfather and the attention that Ivo has been giving to him instead of Stone. And this devastates him because losing the doctor is something he genuinely does not know how to deal with. It's like his own personal cataclysmic event. And yeah, when you have that much of an attachment to someone, it can feel like the end of the world when you become separated. Even if it's so much better for you in the long run, even if that attachment goes way too far and it's not healthy for you, even if you know that, it sucks. Only then, a few mere moments later, Gerald drops the real plan to Ivo, and despite his own ideas of combining their intellect to rule humanity together as a family, Gerald tells Ivo, "You're no Maria." Gerald was too focused on his loss to truly appreciate what was right in front of his face, and it's right here Ivo realizes the same thing. Gerald tells Ivo that he's been nothing but rejected by this world, that there is nobody down there that cares for him, but there's one person who's been there the whole time, and maybe Eggman here finally gets his real moment of sympathy, because if this is how he felt, being rejected by his grandfather, someone he looked up to, someone he wants to share his life with, someone he wanted to do everything with, then how has Agent Stone felt being rejected by him over and over and over again? Then, later on, as Robotnik has his change of heart and stabilizes the cannon before it explodes, he sends down one final live stream to Earth, dedicated to Agent Stone. He gives him that clarity, that validation that he himself has been wanting all of his life from someone. He finally recognizes Stone for being the only person who cared about him, and he sets him free. And that's why Agent Stone could never work outside of this trilogy of movies, because Stone is meant to be underappreciated. He's meant to be cast aside, to be forgotten. And that's why, ironically, he makes such an impact. Because for every latte he makes, every compliment he throws Robotnik's way, he's trying to get ever so closer to Robotnik's heart, to show him that he cares. But Robotnik is too swallowed up in his tragedy to see that. Instead, he just lets himself go, and lets the world reject him as it always has done. Sure, he may realize he's being irrationally mean to Stone, but who's to say Stone isn't just doing his job, right? And to him, who's to say Stone won't someday abandon him too? But it's right here. Robotnik no longer holds him back. Stone has so much more potential than just an assistant to someone who's gone crazy. And while it hurts, God, it hurts so much, Stone knows he must move forward. And as Robotnik says his final goodbye, so does Agent Stone, walking off out of his story, out of this character arc, and into his own life. Several have given the sentiment that they hope Jim Carrey doesn't return for Sonic 4, and that Robotnik's character arc has a perfect end right here. And I also share that same sentiment, not just for Robotnik, but also for Stone, just a little differently. While I hope he does make a return in the form of a cameo or something, I really hope he doesn't end up becoming an antagonist in any way. I don't think Agent Stone has it in him to truly be evil. Does he even come off as a sinister type? I don't think so. I want him to move on, to start his own life, to run his coffee shop again, or something. Whatever he does, I want him to do it for himself, because he wants to. I think that if he went on to become evil, to take revenge on the cast for letting Robotnik die, that would just come off as forced and kinda disingenuous. And while Agent Stone being in the games or the comics wouldn't translate well at all, I wouldn't mind seeing him in a couple of spin-offs or something. I don't know. And this is in no way me trying to deter Stone and Robotnik shippers away from doing what they do. Not only is some of the art I see on the internet genuinely incredible, but I also have to admit that I eat this shit up, so please, just keep doing what you're doing, please. I just wanted to take a deeper look into this character because I truly believe that he deserves way more recognition. He may seem like just a boring stone on the surface, but even just a couple cracks can start to reveal the diamond left laying inside. And also, I think way too hard into these things. Thank you so much for watching this insane trip that I forced myself upon. It was not easy writing this video, so if you made it this far, then just, wow, just thank you. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you think about Agent Stone, and if this video has shifted your perspective any. Seriously, comments mean so much to me, and I read just about every single one I get. And if you really like this video, then consider leaving a like or subscribing. A little goes a long way, and if you think more people deserve to see this video, then doing that is a really solid way of pushing it into the algorithm. And of course, I want to give a special shout out to my channel members, because their support makes everything I do better. So thank you so much to Random Kingdom Person, Elizabeth's Musical, and Grimma. If you want to see what else I'm up to, then you can check my socials in the description of this video, as well as the community tab on my channel. Thank you so much to Octi for helping with the thumbnail, as well as providing a really great narration earlier in the video. Please go check her out. She's just amazing. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching.